Do you ever feel like you're doing all the right things at home, the cooking, the cleaning, the planning, and still feel like it's not enough? Like no matter how hard you try, there's this low hum of pressure in the background. This week I tried cooking like a 1930s homemaker, just using my grandma's old recipes, and something shifted, not just in the kitchen, but in me. Let me tell you why I'll never look at homemaking the same way again. They had no Pinterest boards, no grocery delivery, no talk of slow living or homesteading. They had hard times and hungry mouths to feed. Earlier this month, I sat at a table at church with a group of older women, some of who lived through the Great Depression. They were reminiscing about recipes that their moms used to make, and a lot of it was meals made of potatoes and flour and not much else. Stretching food across 7 children sometimes, boiling rice and reusing the water, making do because they had no choice. But the way they talked about it, there was no self-pity. There was strength and clarity and simplicity. And I sat there thinking, I have so many more options than they ever did, and yet some days I feel just as worn thin. Have you ever felt that too? Not necessarily financially, but mentally or emotionally or spiritually. So I decided to try something. I went home and pulled out my grandma's recipe book, and for an entire week, I cooked like a 1930s homemaker. No fancy ingredients, no colorful charts, no thought about making the plate look perfect or beautiful. Just food. Simple, satisfying, enough, really. Now, I'm not saying that you need to live like it's 1935, but what I learned that week opened my eyes to something that might be holding you back too. So stick with me, because in a few minutes I will share the exact meals that I made and what unexpectedly broke loose in my thoughts and in my heart when I stopped cooking for praise and started cooking for peace. So here's what I realized. Modern motherhood feels like a competition, not a calling. You scroll through social media and suddenly she's batch cooked meals for a whole month, and she grew all of her food from scratch. She made her kids alphabet pancakes every single morning. She grew all of her food in the garden. She makes everything from her sourdough starter. It's all these comparisons where it feels like a competition, and you're over here just trying to get dinner on the table before bedtime meltdowns, right? You tell yourself, I should be more organized. I should plan better. I should enjoy this more. But those shoulds, they are not coming from your soul. They are coming from the noise around you. And when we listen to that noise for too long, even something as meaningful as homemaking starts to feel like pressure instead of peace. It's no longer about just creating a warm home or creating delicious food. It's about performing for invisible standards. Have you ever caught yourself snapping after no one notices the clean kitchen, or feeling ashamed for making sandwiches again instead of a real dinner? Yeah, me too. But those moments aren't about the food. They are about the weight that we're carrying underneath it all. So here's what I made that week, straight from my grandma's book. Macaroni and tomatoes. So this is just pasta, a can of tomato soup, some salt, some pepper, some garlic powder, some onion powder. My kids call it homemade SpaghettiOs, and they can definitely remember Gigi making it for lunches occasionally. Rice and gravy. This is a family favorite for sure, but my grandma called it fried chicken. And even though due to the amount of chicken, the meat was really more of a side dish, it's the meat that gave the gravy such a delicious flavor. The chicken is just tossed in some flour and placed in a frying pan with some butter, and it takes a long time. It slowly cooks in that pan. You rotate it every 15 minutes or so, and it's definitely light on the chicken. If we were showing up to my grandma's house, we knew that you would definitely have to get your fill of rice and gravy because there was hardly enough chicken to even go around, but so yummy. Next is shepherd's pie. Definitely something I grew up eating. Even in my own home, my mom would make it. Mashed potatoes layered over a mixture of ground beef, tomato soup, and canned green beans. And then on the very top is cheddar cheese, and it's baked in the oven. Next was sandwiches. So every day that I can remember, when my grandma was home alone for a lunch, she would just make a simple sandwich of white bread and bologna sliced right down the middle perfectly on a plate, and a little bowl of plain potato chips and a Pepsi with a napkin, of course. And I grew up on bologna and have no intention of feeding it to my kids. So we did PB&J on some fresh homemade sourdough with a side of apple slices. Done. I didn't even try to make gourmet sandwiches. I didn't use meat. Just very, very simple, classic sandwiches. Scalloped potatoes, which is definitely a staple here in Utah, certainly. Thinly sliced potatoes layered with a little bit of milk and butter and flour, sometimes with some onion or cheese if it's available. And then, of course, 2 leftover nights were mixed in there to use up whatever was left in the fridge. We don't want to waste anything, especially in the spirit of the 1930s. So my meal plan for the week, obviously, was not anything fancy. Definitely didn't include anything Pinterest worthy. No new ideas or anything viral. Just food that filled bellies and calmed the chaos at mealtime. But as the days went on throughout the week, something started to shift and I felt really free. Free from this question that's always on my mind. What will they think of this? Free from obsessing over the right way to do dinner. Free from needing every meal to look super impressive or feel exciting. I was no longer cooking to impress anybody. I wasn't cooking for praise. I really was cooking from a place of peace. And that peace didn't come from a simpler meal plan. It came from a simpler mindset. And this is something that I teach in coaching. We tend to believe our emotions are caused by what's happening around us, our circumstances. A clean kitchen, an empty plate, a compliment. But the truth is your feelings come from what you're thinking, what's in your mind, not what anyone else does or doesn't do. So I used to think, they better appreciate this, right? And now I think this is how I show love. This is how I show up in my calling of motherhood. This reflects who I am. And that is what we call emotional adulthood. It means taking ownership of how you feel and creating peace on purpose. Not waiting for validation, not blaming your mood on everyone around you and their behavior, but really asking, who do I want to be right now in this moment? And let me tell you, when you stop performing and start living in alignment with your values, there is so much peace on the other side. And maybe you're here because something in you wants that too. You're tired of feeling behind, tired of the silent scorecard in your mind, tired of comparing your effort to someone else's highlighted reel. So let me just gently ask you, how much of what you do in your home is to look good instead of to feel grounded? Are you meal planning from inspiration or insecurity? Are you keeping your house up because you love the sense of order or because you're afraid of being judged? These are questions that I have had to ask myself too, and they've really reshaped how I see homemaking. That's why I created my free ebook for you. You were made for this. It's a short, faith-filled guide for stay-at-home moms who really are just ready to stop living from pressure and start living from purpose. Inside, I'll walk you through simple mindset shifts, journal prompts, and life coaching tools that are grounded in Christian truth. So not to help you do more, but to help you tune into the woman that God already created you to be. If you've been feeling like you're always behind, like something's missing, like there must be another way, there totally is. The link is in the description. It's free. It's just for you. You don't have to cook like your grandma, but maybe you need to remember what she knew. That joy isn't found in applause or in aesthetics. It's found in alignment. When your homemaking reflects your faith, when your meals are cooked with meaning, when your routines are built on truth, not trends, that's where peace lives. So if you have been caught in the pressure, trying to measure up to somebody else's version of motherhood, you're not alone. But you don't have to stay there. Imagine cooking without guilt, walking into your kitchen without dread, serving your family not from a place of proving something, but from a place of peace. That is what happens when you return to your values, to the woman that God already created you to be. And it doesn't take a full lifestyle overhaul. Maybe it's just one meal this week where you pause and really ask, what really matters to me right now? That one moment of clarity, that is where it begins. So please remember, you don't need a better routine to be worthy. You don't need perfect dinners to be valuable. You were made for this. Even if you don't have a sourdough starter and don't even own an apron, you're doing so much better than you think, and I'll see you very soon.